Tyler had more children than any other president in American history. He had 16 children in total, 8 with his wife Letitia, 7 with his second wife Julia. Wait, I'm pretty good at arithmetic, and that's just 15. Well, Tyler also allegedly had a son with one of his slaves, John William Dungy. All 8 of his kids with Letitia, except for Anne, reached adulthood. His other children with her were Mary, Robert, John Tyler Jr., Letitia, nicknamed Letty, Elizabeth, Alice, and Tazewell. All 7 of Tyler's kids with Julia survived to adulthood. There was David, John Alexander, Julia, Lachlan, Lyon, Robert, and Margaret Pearl. David was later a U.S. representative. So here's something crazy. John Tyler's son Lyon had a son named Harrison who is still alive today. Holy crap, wowza. James Polk. Polk was also sterile, likely due to an operation where he had urinary stones removed when he was a teenager. Polk and his wife Sarah were the only presidential couple to never have children while together, biologically, adopted, or from a previous marriage. Zachary Taylor. Taylor had 6 children with his wife Margaret. They had to bury 3 of their children, all 3 dying from malaria. Octavia and Margaret died from malaria when they were babies, and Sarah died from it when she was 21, 3 months after marrying Jefferson Davis. Yeah, the Jefferson Davis, who was the only president of the Confederate States of America. Anyway, Taylor's other 3 kids were Anne, Mary, and Richard. Millard Fillmore. Fillmore had 2 children with his wife Abigail, Millard Powers and Mary. Mary, who served as acting first lady due to Abigail's poor health, was brilliant. She could speak at least 5 languages and played many instruments. Her sudden death from cholera at the young age of 22 particularly devastated Fillmore. Fillmore had no kids with his second wife, Caroline. Franklin Pierce. The tragic, like all 3 of his children, with his wife Jane, did not live to see their dad become president. Franklin Pierce Jr. died as a baby. Frank Robert died when he was 4 from typhus. And most tragically of all, Benjamin, aka Benny, died in a horrible train accident just weeks before Pierce was to be inaugurated. Pierce and
So one of them died from, what was it, typhus?
Franklin Pierce. The tragic, face indeed. All 3 of his children, with his wife Jane, did not live to see their dad become president. Franklin Pierce Jr. died as a baby. Frank Robert died when he was 4 from typhus. And most tragically of all, Benjamin, aka Benny, died in a horrible train accident just weeks before Pierce was to be inaugurated. Pierce and Jane nearly died from the accident as well and witnessed firsthand as a train car smashed Benny, nearly decapitating him. James Buchanan.
Wow.
Buchanan never married and never had biological children, although he did adopt 2 nieces, Mary and Harriet. Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln had 4 children with his wife Mary, all boys. 3 of them died young. Eddie when he was 3, Willie when he was 11. That was when Lincoln was actually in the White House, by the way. And Tad when he was 18. When Tad was younger, he famously was known as the crazy, impulsive kid running around the White House. He reportedly interrupted important meetings, collected animals, and set them loose around the house, and charged visitors to see his dad. Smart kid. Lincoln and Mary's other boy, Robert, lived a long life and notably was the U.S. Secretary of War in the James Garfield administration, and later U.S. Minister to the United Kingdom in the Benjamin Harrison administration. Andrew Johnson. Johnson and his wife Eliza had 5 children: Martha, Charles, Mary, Robert, and Andrew Johnson Jr., aka Frank. Ulysses Grant. Grant and his wife Julia had 4 children: Frederick, Ulysses Grant Jr., nicknamed Buck, Ellen, nicknamed Nellie, and Jesse. Frederick ended up being a military governor of a province in the Philippines after the United States occupied it in 1899. Oh, and before that, he was U.S. Minister to Austria-Hungary and the Benjamin Harrison administration. Rutherford Hayes. Hayes and his wife Lucy had 8 children: Sardis Burchard, James, Rutherford Platt, Joseph, George, Fanny, Scott, and Manning. Manning died as a baby, and Joseph and George died as toddlers. James Garfield. Garfield and his wife Lucretia had 7 children, 5 who lived to adulthood. Eliza died when she was 3, and Edward died when he was just 1. There was also Harry, who was a president of a college, James Rudolph, who was a U.S. Secretary of the Interior in the Theodore Roosevelt administration, Mary, Irvin, and Abram, who was an accomplished architect. Chester Arthur. Arthur and his wife Nell had 3 children: William, who died when he was just 2, Chester Arthur II, and Ellen, also nicknamed Nell like her mother. Grover Cleveland. Cleveland was a bachelor until he was 49 and was in his first term when he married the then 21-year-old Frances. Before Frances, back when he was running for president, rumors circulated that he had an illegitimate child named Oscar with a woman named Maria Halpin. In fact, Cleveland's opponents even chanted, "Ma, Ma, where's my paw?" to attack his character. Cleveland acknowledged that Oscar was possibly his, but Maria also alleged that Cleveland had sexually assaulted her, though he was never charged, and she may have made this up. Regardless, Cleveland made payments to Maria after Oscar was born, and the public mostly believed Cleveland over Maria. With Frances, Cleveland had 5 children: Ruth, Esther, Marion, Richard, and Frances. All of them lived long lives except Ruth, nicknamed Baby Ruth, who died when she was 12. The makers of the candy bar, Baby Ruth, used to claim they had named it after her, but we now know they really were probably just capitalizing on the star power of Babe Ruth and were just saying they named it after Ruth Cleveland so they didn't have to pay Babe Ruth royalties. Esther Cleveland was the first and only child of a president to be born in the White House. Benjamin Harrison. Yep, I mentioned him earlier, the grandson of William Henry Harrison and son of John Scott Harrison, had 3 children with his wife Caroline and 1 child with his second wife Mary, who was Caroline's niece, by the way.